The snatch is one of the most complex lifts, but it doesn't have to be. In today's video, I'm going to break down 7 of the easiest changes you could make to your technique to see an immediate improvement and lift more weight. And if you like weightlifting and you want to learn how to improve your technique and get stronger for the Olympic lifts, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Tip number 1 to immediately improve your snatch technique is to rotate your elbows in the correct direction. In the snatch, you'll often hear coaches say that you need to get your elbows up or to keep the bar close to you. But if you don't have your elbows pointed in the right direction, you can think about it all you want, it's not gonna happen. So when setting up for the snatch, we wanna make sure that we're rotating our elbows so that they point up, not back. All this does is make sure that when you try and get your elbows high, you actually are able to. If your elbows are pointed back, your elbows cannot go high, they can only go back. Now, with this change, it might be a little bit more natural with your elbows out to feel like your shoulders should be more forward, but we don't want to do that. We still want to make sure that our hips are down in our pocket and that our elbows are pointed up. Tip number 2 to improve your snatch technique builds off of the last tip. Now that we have the right elbow position, we want to make sure that we have the right shoulder position as well. The reason that this is so important is that when we're pulling the bar, we never want the bar to ever drop once we've started lifting it up off the floor. A lot of the time in general fitness advice, you'll hear people say to squeeze your shoulder blades back and down. This is good blanket fitness advice for a majority of exercises, but for the snatch and for the clean in particular, we actually don't want to do that. We want to imagine shoving our shoulders down towards our hips, but not squeezing them back. The reason for this is that if we start with our shoulders squeezed back in the snatch pull, as we pull, those muscles are really weak, and it's likely that they'll get pulled out of position and the bar will drop. Along with that, if we're shrugging our shoulders up instead of down, as we pass the knee, if we're shrugged up, we're likely going to see that bar drop down because the traps are not strong enough to hold that position. Along with that, if your shoulders are shrugged up early in the pull, then we're going to lose out on some speed under the bar later in the lift. The traps are responsible for the first part of the pull under. So when we're trying to get under the bar, after we've fully extended our legs, the traps will help pull our body down into the bottom of the catch. But if your traps are already shrugged up before you get to that point, then they won't be able to help pull you under the bar. So when you're setting up, make sure to rotate your elbows out and then shove your shoulders down towards your hip pocket without squeezing the shoulder blades back. Tip number 3 to improve your technique in the snatch is focused on the start position. This is something that we go over extensively in Weightlifting 101, my free beginner guide and 6-week program, which you can find linked in the description below. The main thing that we want to focus on is our toe and knee position. So a lot of the time you'll see lifters start with their toes and knees pointed straight forward. The problem with this is that it's going to make it harder to get the knees out of the way of the bar, rather than if we made this change, which is to turn our toes out slightly and point our knees out in line with the toes. This is less overall movement that the knees have to move back to clear the road for the bar, which means that you're going to have a more efficient pull, and it's going to be easier for you to use your legs when driving off the floor. This toe and knee angle should feel relatively similar to a squat, just slightly narrower with our feet and our hips slightly higher than it would be considered for a squat. Which leads into my next tip. Tip number 4 is to imagine pushing with your legs instead of pulling with your legs. In the first pull, our main goal is to clear the road for the bar while making sure that our hips and shoulders rise at the same rate, rather than letting our hips rise up faster than our shoulders or forward around the knee. This can be really difficult, and it's often the thing that most lifters mess up in the snatch. But one thing that you can do to help think about this is to imagine it like it's a squat. So picture that you've got a barbell on your back in your start position and you're trying to come up, just like that. But if you were to let your hips rise faster, then you would end up in a weaker position, which, if you've ever squatted before, you know that that position doesn't feel as strong because now you have to use a lot of your back to save the lift rather than your legs, which are much stronger, to stand up from the squat. So give that a try next time that you're doing snatches. Imagine that there is a bar on your back that you are trying to keep in the same position the entire time. Tip number 5 to immediately improve your technique in the snatch is to brace as hard as possible. You've probably heard people talk about bracing in the big strength lifts like the squat and the deadlift, but it's just as important in the snatch as well. The snatch is a full body movement, and anytime that we need our entire body to contribute to the lift, then bracing becomes incredibly important. By bracing harder, you'll be able to get more power from your legs and keep that power and stay connected to the bar as you pull yourself under into the bottom of the snatch. So when you're bracing, we want to focus on bracing in two places. First is in the start position. Take a big deep breath in and push your stomach out to brace your core in the pull. Then in the bottom of the catch, keep that brace so that you are not loose and unstable at the bottom of the lift. Now, if you're not familiar with bracing or how to do it correctly, I really like using a weightlifting belt as a way to learn this. So take and put your weightlifting belt on and tighten it pretty tight so it would be hard to get more than a finger or two between the belt. Once you've got the belt on, take a big deep breath in and push your stomach out into the belt. But not just your stomach. Imagine pushing everything in a 360-degree circle around your midsection out into the belt. Cute, right? By focusing on a 360-degree brace around the midsection, you'll feel all kinds of muscles that you didn't know you had working pretty hard. And in general, when you're trying to lift a lot of weight, using more muscle is better than using less muscle. Tip number 6 to fix your snatch technique is to change how you think about the movement. One of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had in the snatch was thinking about the concept of when you're not pulling, you should be pushing. A lot of people use what I call the pull and pray method, which can help you get away with some pretty crazy lifts, but most of the time it's going to either lead to a missed lift or a press out. The snatch should have constant tension on the bar. From the ground until extension, we should be mostly focused on that tension, which is pulling the bar up. From our extension to the bottom of the catch, that tension should still be there, but it should be focused on pulling our body down. And then from the moment that that bar passes about eye level, as we're moving under the bar, we should be pushing up on the bar the entire time. This helps make sure that there is no moment in the lift where there is not constant tension on the bar. We are either pulling the bar up, pulling our body down, or pushing the bar up as we move down into the bottom of the squat. This might sound obvious, but where a lot of people lose that is in the transition from pulling to pushing, where the bar is about eye level. From this point, you should be pushing up against that bar as hard as you can before you've reached the bottom of the squat. If you can nail this, I promise you'll start to feel way more connected to the lifts and you'll have fewer press outs and missed lifts in training. Tip number 7 to immediately improve your technique in the snatch is to pause in the catch at the bottom of every lift. This is important because the bottom of the snatch is not limited by your leg strength to stand up. So where in the clean, we are going to be limited by leg strength and we need to stand up and ride the bounce out of it as fast as possible. The opposite is true for the snatch. Catch the lift, stay at the bottom, pause there until you feel perfectly stable, then stand up. Now, yes, there are absolutely times where you should catch the lift, not pause at the bottom. If you need to chase it forward to save it, like in competition or with PR attempts, do what you need to do. But for the majority of training, you should be focused on pausing in the bottom of the catch every single rep. Another reason that this helps a lot is that if you make any mistakes in your pull that lead to feeling unstable in the catch, such as moving forward around the knee or hitting the bar out in front of you, causing maybe a jump forward or just a loopy bar path, by pausing in the bottom of the catch, you'll start to notice those changes and you'll make micro corrections to your technique through each set. And the best part about it is you don't have to think at all about what those changes are. Your body will just make those changes to make it easier for you to pause in the catch. Now, the first time that you try this, especially if you chase a lot of your lifts forward, you might not feel immediately better. That's okay. Take a couple of extra sets with those lighter weights, get yourself to be able to pause in the catch for a couple sets, and then continue on with your workout, keeping this in mind, and you will feel better. You might just need a couple of extra warm-up sets with this technique. If you found this video helpful, then make sure to check out my OlyStrong weightlifting program linked in the description below. You'll get access to proven programming, daily video feedback, and unlimited coach messaging for less than $30 a month. So if that sounds good to you, then check out the link below for a free week trial. We'll catch you guys in the next one.